So here we are in Leeds, and I'm delighted to be with Neil Moles again, a year in almost to the day, Neil, where you came to my little studio down in Oxfordshire, and it was a pleasure meeting you. I think we had a really great discussion. This is a bit of a follow-up really, because of course the last 12 months have been a bit of a pandemonium. I think it's fair to say a lot has happened, a lot of change has happened, and firstly, just how's it been for you?
It's been an experience. I'm not sure it's one I'd like to repeat.
Yeah.
But I never thought I'd be a CEO, running a business through a pandemic. But you know what? We've learned so much. We've learned about ourselves, about our clients, and we've had to embrace new ways of working, new ways of communicating with clients. And I think we're in a much better place as a business than we ever were in terms of our adaptability. And technology has been at the absolute heart of that for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But no, I feel we're in a stronger place now than we were going into the pandemic.
So obviously a lot of questions being asked around return to work. Now that we're beginning to see a return to normality, I don't think it's going to be any time soon, to be fair, but we're beginning to see a return to normality. What's your view in terms of bringing people back to the office? What's the sort of sentiment that you're experiencing now?
I think ultimately we have to be driven by our clients. We've recently conducted a survey of clients to see whether they will be wanting to come back into meetings, physical meetings, or whether they preferred the virtual environment, and it's about 50-50 at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think that's more of a sort of a temperature check of where people are and where they're feeling.
Yeah.
I think as a business, in terms of returning to offices, look, we've learned that we can work from home. Yeah. We've learned that we can get the output, we can be efficient, and we've delivered great service to clients in this time. But I think what we're also doing is missing personal human contact. Collaboration is a word that's used a lot.
Yeah.
But as a business, we've onboarded over 90 individuals, 90 people into this business in the last 12 months.
That's extraordinary.
And it's just the ability to train them.
Yeah.
To sit everyone round one computer screen and ask questions, or overhear someone on a telephone to a client and pick up on something. So my view is that we need to have some form of return to offices. As a business, we've moved to a hybrid situation, whereby people are in the office for 3 days and at home for 2 days.
Yeah.
And that has to be fluid as well.
Yeah.
That has to be around clients' needs.
Yeah.
If they need us here, we need to be here. We're there to support them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But I think what it has taught us throughout the pandemic is we can be more flexible. Yeah. And we've also extended the working day, because people's mental well-being is so important to us, to them, and wider society right now. With all the challenges that we face. So if somebody wants to take the children to school and then start work, or pick them up, and work start earlier, or even go for a run at lunchtime or walk the dog. What we're finding is if we're able to let people do that, then they just become more productive, more engaged with the business. So we have to, it's hard right now because we're still in a lockdown scenario ultimately, and the government said a phased return to work, which we don't really know what that means because there's no guidance.
Yeah.
But over the longer term, I think we've got to just almost suck it and see. Yeah. Try it, see if it works, and hopefully give you even more flexibility in the future.
But it must be incredibly frustrating, because I think when we first met, September last year, I think you just actually moved into your brand new office, or about to move into your brand new office, which is where we are today, in the centre of Leeds, and it's very nice too. So you've got space for hundreds of people. And how many people are here now? And what's the plan to get them back? Or, is it really, that's it? It's going to be very much down to them in future as to how they want to work?
I think we've got to go with government guidance, as we always have done. And I think that's super important. But on top of that, we've also got to look at people's safety and the local rates of infection. Progeny has 7 offices around the UK. Yeah. Currently, we've got 3 open. Yeah. And that's dependent on size and the ability to social distance, even though we don't particularly have to. Yeah. So again, using technology, desk booking systems to allow people to come back. Right now, we're at 50% capacity, but we're also working in 2 bubbles. Yeah. So we're effectively 25% capacity. Yeah. And what we want to do is to be able to flex that up, but also bring it down if local infection rates get higher again. But we're hoping by the end of August, most people in here will have at least had 1 jab, with the majority have had 2 jabs. Yeah. So we're getting to a point where we're going to be as safe as we possibly can be in the future, and encourage people to come back.
So So really the purpose, I guess, of this interview was a bit of a catch-up to really see how the Progeny Group is developing. And if we sort of turn the discussion around now to a little bit more around the technology and data, because you've been mentioning a lot about the importance of technology in your business, and that actually the last time we spoke you said you were becoming increasingly a technology company. And even today, just talking about the expansion of the tech team, it's great news, and you're absolutely right, by the way. I completely subscribe to that approach. You have to have technology, and the pandemic has proven that beyond a shadow of a doubt. We've always maintained the importance of data, and I think when we first had our conversation, you again gave emphasis to the importance of data, because that, I think, is the new currency, frankly. Without data, you have nothing. So you were beginning a project of really digging deep into your data proposition sort of this time last year. How's that gone, and what difference has it made to the business so far?
So it's a project that will never end. Data is, you can always get better data, you can get more data, you can use it in better ways. I think what we have to look at is what the journey has taught us so far. In terms of, there's a lot of regulation around in financial services, and for very, very good reasons. And what data can help you do is to get in front and stay in front of regulation. Most businesses review board data, and it's always looking in the rearview mirror. You're looking at the last 3 or 6 months of what's happened. If we can look at data in real time, we can analyse risks today. We can look at how busy people are. We can and make changes in real time. So that's been the first thing that data has given us the ability to do. Going forward, I think we can drive greater efficiency in the business through document automation, and that in a way that will deliver better outcomes to clients. And also, what data can do is, all our clients are time poor. Whether they're a 21-year-old who's out doing lots of wonderful things, or someone who's retired who just wants to enjoy life, they're time poor. So if we can use data to make our interaction and communication with clients more efficient, then we're delivering better client outcomes. So risk mitigation, and then using data to deliver improvements into the business, to give you that analysis and visibility over what's going on, is where we're really starting to see the benefits today.
But it sounds easy, doesn't it? Sounds really super simple, actually. And it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. You can see what's happening in real time. But, come on, to get to that position takes a degree of commitment, doesn't it?
It does, and as a growing business in financial services, we've been acquisitive, so we acquire data, so we acquire other businesses and their data, and there has to be a strong commitment to improving that data, to cleansing it, and then constantly improving it. Adding in new fields, new things that we want to collate to improve the client experience. So it's a commitment that, a bit like data, when it starts, it never ends. And our technology team is one of the fastest growing in the business for that reason. I think we're up to 11 people in the last 12 months now. And it's great, and you can see the immediate improvements in the business. I think there has to be a long-term project in terms of what we're trying to achieve with data, which is a lot more automation, and potentially utilising AI in the future to make our lives even easier and clients' lives better, and reduce risk. But there also has to be small, accessible, marginal gains along the way where you can see the improvements.
Well, I think that's the point, isn't it? Because it's just getting that catalyst to demonstrate the value. Otherwise, for a lot of people, if you're implementing change, people hate change, don't they? They absolutely hate change. So implementing change is always going to be challenging. But if you're able to demonstrate how, by doing this one thing, consistently, it has this massive impact and releases all of that time to do other more productive stuff, then that's got to be the catalyst to sort of underscore the importance of that trajectory, that journey.
Well, 100%. Absolutely. It's and you have to get your stakeholders to believe in it. And stakeholders are not just clients. We have internal stakeholders who need to be on that data journey. And once people start to see those small marginal gains, they get it. And then they start to see the bigger picture in much more visibility, and can be on the journey with us. Clients need to be part of that journey as well. So these marginal gains of client portals and the way we interact with them is super important. I think the one thing we have found, and I've been quite vocal about, is the lack of providers being on the same journey.
Yeah, well, I think that's a legacy issue that I'm not sure will ever change. The only thing that's going to change that is commercial imperative, isn't it? Where firms make the decision to move to the businesses that can support their digital transformation, and that in itself will apply the appropriate commercial pressure on those firms to change. Whether they do so or not, who knows? I think, obviously what we're beginning to see now is some of the larger established providers going back into distribution as well. Yeah. And I suppose that's one way for them to avoid the inevitable of supporting a more technically enabled advice community.
Yeah, I mean, we all talk about challenger banks and what that's done to the banking space.
Exactly.
The Revoluts and the Monzos of this world, which are super fast-growing animals. Yeah. The same will happen. Yeah. In the financial planning space, and we're starting to see some of those challenger platforms and providers start to come to the front with really good technology, which are delivering even better client outcomes ultimately.
But it still presents a challenge, doesn't it? Because of course there is so much legacy still in existence. How does a business address that? How does a business actually address the legacy which is not supported, cannot easily be consumed by your technology to provide that aggregated view, when delivering advice without that aggregated view can be potentially it risks mis-selling.
Yeah, I think it's hard, and we're governed by regulation, again quite rightly, but we're also governed by taxation. Yeah. And a lot of those legacy issues are there because of taxation.
Yeah, of course.
Whether it be capital gains tax or in fact income tax, and these products cannot be moved for that reason. So we have to find better ways of managing them and make sure they don't just become orphaned assets. Which we've seen a huge amount of activity in that space of people buying up these businesses and then just sitting on them. There's no desire for them to improve. And I think this is something that the FCA in particular have to look at. If you can get tied up in a legacy product where you're being charged 2 or 3% per annum, which actually over the longer period mitigates the tax benefit of not moving out of it.
Will it, in a low interest rate or a low growth rate environment, that's 100% of your income taken
gone backwards
as fees, exactly. So you are going backwards, which is a problem. And interesting, you introduced the concept of consolidation, these people coming and buying businesses and all that sort of stuff, and I think that's being accelerated at the moment by what seems to be a massive influx of venture capital and private equity coming into the space. What's that about then? What's going on? And is it good for the business? Is it good for the clients? Because I know you're passionate about client outcomes. You say that a lot, which is absolutely right. At the end of the day, you're only in business because clients look after us and pay us our fees, if you like. So you've got to deliver value for that. What's your take on the consolidation that's going on in the market? And do you think it's a good thing, bad thing?
Consolidation is a natural thing. We've got an ageing population into the advice world. So it's very natural now. You'll expect to see principals selling to consolidators or to somebody else. So that bit I get. I think when we're looking at the size of private equity checks that are coming into the UK right now, it's huge. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? It can be a good thing if they're supporting the right business models. What I don't like to see out there are these buy and build models where we're just bolting together 20 firms but never actually integrating them. Where's the data benefit? Where's the technology? Where's the benefit to clients? That's where I really fail to see a model. For me, that's buy and destroy.
Well, exactly, isn't it? It's basically saying, well, we'll pay you 3 times your recurring revenue for your business. We'll put 20 of those together and sell it for 6. Is that the sort of mindset that you're talking about there?
100%, and I don't get how that's right or good for clients. They just, it's like, I think we said this a while ago. You go to a financial planning practice because you've got a personal connection with someone, and I get they want to retire and pass you on. But it's like going to a Mercedes garage and then waking up with a Ford Focus. You bought the Mercedes and all of a sudden you went, I didn't choose that. So we have to make sure the client outcomes are improved through this process, and they can be. Because through good consolidation you can reduce costs. Of course. We can reduce costs of platforms, of funds, and improve technology and customer experience if you're willing to commit to fully integrating those models. So I think done properly, I think it'll be good for the sector. I think there are personally, it needs to consolidate. Regulation is struggling with so many firms in the marketplace, and less is easier to regulate. For sure. But by the same token, I don't want it just to reduce choice. People should still be able to go to some of those amazing small firms out there that should always be there. They don't need to consolidate. They're just fantastic. So as long as we don't break what we've got, I think we can do it positively.
But also, if you think about the history, where the industry was born from, I mean, I joined the industry in 1982 for my sins. Have I said I joined the industry in 1982 before?
You have twice now.
And there you have it. And in those days, of course, there were something like 250,000 direct salespeople running around flogging policies for commission only, and that was me.
Yeah.
You know, and although it was a great grounding and a great foundation for my future career to come, you know, it was a bit Wild West, especially when it comes to something as important as financial planning. So I think, you know, it's interesting to see how mindsets have evolved, how when the Financial Services Act was enabled in '86, the product providers suddenly realised they had this massive legacy problem, you know, of all these untrained, unregulated individuals now becoming regulated, so they sacked them all.
Yes.
And then the little miracle happened. They all became IFAs, or a lot of them became IFAs, took on the responsibility of the advice, but still were selling the plans for commission. Yeah. And that's the background to the industry. So I guess if you think of the mindset of those people, they were very entrepreneurial, they were not business people, they were sales people. And of course, we're now seeing them coming to the end of their career. Mindsets probably have persisted over that time. But of course, you know, with the implementation of deep regulation, the need for a much more business-orientated approach is critical. Yeah. And so you're right, I think, you know, consolidation of the right businesses into larger entities where they can get economies of scale, and then these individuals can be free to do what they love, which is the client piece, secure in the knowledge that the background, the back work is being done for them. I think makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that's always been our acquired to hire model. You know, we recognise that the best people in the industry end up running their own businesses, owning their own businesses. Yeah. So you can't hire them. Yeah. So you have to acquire them. Yeah. But ultimately what you're doing is taking off all that pressure of running the business, and you're releasing them back into the wild to be great financial planners again. Yeah. So it's actually good for the growth of the business, and it also mitigates the risks in the business. Yeah. I think what people need to do when it comes to, you know, this retirement stroke consolidation piece is to do it as soon as possible. Yeah. Don't wait until you get to 60 or 65. Because I promise you, you're not going to get the best price for your business, and actually you're not doing the best thing by your clients. Yeah. Because they're going to wake up with the Ford Focus. Yeah. You know, and ultimately they've chosen you.
So obviously Progeny is on an acquisition trail. You said that in the first interview that you have grown organically, but also through acquisition. So when you're looking to acquire a business, what are the key metrics? What are the key drivers that you look for? And also, you know, what's your attitude to that business if, for example, their data is perhaps not as good as it could be?
I think 3 words: people, people, and people. And the most important thing in any acquisition. Okay. Because it's not an acquisition, it's an investment. You're investing in what they've created, and you're trying to take it to the next level. Yeah. So there always has to be something in common. Yeah. With any acquisition that works for both parties, something that ties you both together. Yeah. It's a marriage at the end of the day. Yeah. So whether that's an investment philosophy or a belief around financial planning, it has to be something that ties everyone. But thereafter, it's purely down to the quality of the people in the business. You know, as you well know, the quality of data in businesses is nothing less than shocking most of the time. Yeah. So we kind of take that on the chin because we have to. Yeah. But more and more we're in the pre sort of sale process, we're helping them to improve their data, so that when we need to ingest it in our integration period, it's in a much better state, which means we can integrate sooner.
But why do you think that is? I mean, come on, back office systems have been around since the mid-90s. My first company, Key Software, provided back office systems. Obviously, it was launched at the same time as First and all the other firms that are now in common use. After all that time, why? Why is it still so bad?
There's a number of reasons, isn't there? And unfortunately, most CRMs in the UK are just commission reconciliation systems. You know, and people have not yet got on their journey of data. They don't understand the power of data and what it can, and technology and what it can deliver to clients. Yeah. But most businesses in the UK are lifestyle businesses. Yeah. They're not businesses, as we've already alluded to. Yeah. You know, they're run by those principles that we're advising, 20 years ago. Yeah. So they've no incentive to get on that journey, and therefore the CRMs have no incentive to improve. They're quite happy becoming. I mean, are they becoming legacies as well, in their own right, where it's too hard to get out, and you just end up locked in there for 20 years? Yeah. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe they need to change to allow the industry to change.
Of course, that's our belief, absolutely, as you can probably imagine. And we don't call them CRM systems, we call them legacy back office systems.
Yes.
For obvious reasons. So
LBOs.
Exactly. And that's why you're right, things have to change. I mean, the systems in common use were all built, as I say, in the mid to late 90s around the wrong business model, the business model that was thrown away through retail distribution review.
Yes.
So you're right, they were commission reconciliation, stroke compliance, new business registers, as opposed to CRM systems in the global sense, which of course is absolutely what's needed in a post-RDR service-orientated business, which might explain then the sort of challenges that individuals have, and something I know you're quite passionate about, and that's fees for no service. So you were in the press recently sort of talking about that. Tell us a little bit more about what's going on, what's the motivation here, and why should firms be worried or care?
So the background to this is what's happened in the Australian market.
Yeah.
We've had a parliamentary review effectively in Australia, which has looked at the whole advice market. And what they found there is that people were paying for a service and not receiving anything.
Yeah.
Legacy again. Sold something with an ongoing fee, but not been seen each year, not been updated and reviewed. I see the same thing in the UK. And the very simple principle is that we know from our research how many clients a financial planner can look after. We then pull that back to about 120 clients. But we see acquisition targets where they say, we've got 500 clients. No, it's impossible. The name's on a database. You are not delivering a proper annual suitability review to those clients, which means as an industry, we've got people paying for something that they're not getting. And if your milkman didn't bring the milk, you wouldn't pay him.
True.
It's that simple. So why are these people paying for it?
Yeah.
So I'm passionate about, and this isn't about calling out the industry in terms of something that's bad and, we need to say, it's the next big claims missile here. This is about saying run a good business. Because if you turn your clients into advocates, they recommend their friends. If they've not seen you for 2 years, chances are they're not going to recommend you. So, run your business properly, professionally, and you'll get more new business.
It does beg the question, though, whether these clients actually know they're paying fees.
Yeah, I'm sure they don't.
Yeah.
In many cases, I'm sure some do, and apathy kind of sets in, and they're quite happy with the returns. They don't really want to see someone, and that's fine. But that needs a different service proposition. Yeah. We have a duty of care, and we have a duty of responsibility to deliver an annual suitability report to clients. But I would urge every client to look at their annual review statements that they get from providers and see what the fees are, and then just cross-check to see if they've seen the financial planner in the last 12 months. Yeah. If they haven't, then reach out. Yeah. And say, look, I've not seen you, can I see you please? Yeah. Again, we're not trying to generate bad things for the industry here, we're trying to generate better communication.
What I was going to say, is the hidden agenda here, is the sort of a sort of subliminal sort of campaign that Neil Moles is running to change things, to put some stick about, or why, if you're doing your job and you adopt that mindset, why should it matter?
Because we're trying to improve the entire sector, the entire industry, and what we don't want, trust is everything when it comes to financial planning. You have to trust the firm, you have to trust the people. And as an industry and a sector, we're not that well trusted. So we need to improve trust, we need to improve education across the piece. And if we come together as an industry, we can become a profession. I truly, truly believe that, but only if we're all working to the same principles and standards and serving the clients properly for what they're paying us.
Well, let's just talk about that for a second, because clearly most professions charge fees. Okay, now we say we charge fees, but actually we don't really charge fees, do we? We charge a percentage of assets.
Yeah.
So for a profession, is that appropriate?
I think this is all about communication with clients. Yeah. A percentage of assets is just pounds and pence in real terms. Yeah. So this is about value. Yeah. Are we delivering value for what we charge? Yeah. So first of all, the client should know about it, not in percentage terms, but every year clients should know in pounds and pence terms, and they should have to sign up to it every year, as our clients do. Okay. And
how do you find they react to that when they see the pounds, shillings and pence right in front of them?
Very well. Yeah. I think it's a good discussion to have with the client about, actually, this is what we charged you last year, these are the services that were delivered, this is the value that we created. Yeah. So next year, actually, it might be changing a little bit because we've got less to do or more to do. Yeah. So we just need to get better about having those conversations with clients and demonstrating value. Yeah. And I know that technology can do that.
Yeah.
You know, technology can record how many times we've received an email from a client or answered a telephone call, or, you know, how many meetings we've had. So all of that can be collated and presented to a client. So actually, yeah, you might think, you know, you've paid us a lot of money, but actually you emailed me 82 times last year. And that was that peace of mind that you got as a result of it.
Yeah, and I think that's the point, isn't it? And again, it comes right back to data, or a lack of data, that basically stops people from having those discussions because they have no idea.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's the point. If people were able to see time spent and income received, and then put a price, a number on the value that has been delivered in pounds, shillings and pence, you know, it's so easy, isn't it, to reorganise somebody's finances, their lending, their borrowing. You know, but that project itself could have saved them thousands of pounds of interest.
Absolutely. It's, I mean, with tax, you know, but even just that peace of mind.
Yeah.
Can you really put a value on peace of mind?
No.
And this is about what the value proposition is within financial planning.
Yeah.
It's not about picking stocks and investment management. That's a different part of this industry, and it's an integral part. Don't get me wrong, but actually, what value do we add to clients?
Yeah.
You know, it's tax optimization, it's goal-based planning, and it's removing that emotional distress.
Yeah.
Because everyone's worried about it.
Yeah, of course. Well, you know, as you say, it's peace of mind. It's knowing that should anything happen, you've got it covered.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think far too many firms tend to focus on the wrong things. They're focusing on, I made an X% return on your investment, when actually they're neglecting things like protection and, you know, planning and all those sort of things, which all tell a story. I mean, it's quite interesting. I was talking to a big wealth management firm just the other day, and they have been exclusively, you know, money. They're just managing the money on behalf of clients. They're changing strategy entirely, and they're putting financial planning front of house, because that's the journey, isn't it? That tells you the client's story. It tells you where they're going. It engages them at an emotional level, and I think that's a really critical part of delivering that value add.
Absolutely, and you know, more and more, you know, I believe that we're becoming emotional coaches with clients.
Yeah.
You know, tax is something you can do through data quite easily, and an algorithm. Optimizing a cash flow model is done through data if it's done properly, and knowledge around the client and their goals and needs. So more and more it is talking to them about their fears and their hopes and dreams, and how do we make all that happen. You know, the hygiene factor is the return. You know, if you only need a 4% return to achieve your dreams, why are you chasing 10?
Yeah, well, that's the point, isn't it?
So what are you paying for to get 10 when you only need 4?
Yeah, what's enough? When's enough?
Yes.
And it's that recognition which I think is really important. And that, of course, is where financial planners can add such value. They can say, look, you don't need to get that because you've got enough.
Yeah.
You know, based on the discussion we've had, what you're trying to achieve over the course of the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You know, you're fine. Or, well, we need to focus a little bit on maybe rebalancing some of your expenditure, stuff like that. And that's the key stuff, isn't it? It's the hand-holding through those financial decisions.
Without a doubt. And, you know, one of the things that we see more and more now is the fear over handing money onto next generations.
Yeah.
And you know, when's the right time to do it?
Yeah.
How much do you give, and how do you actually do it?
Yeah.
You know, do you want to give it outright? Do you want to put it into a trust, or various other means? And, you know, that's now becoming it's a fear.
Yeah.
You know, people are scared about what those decisions look like.
Yeah.
And so to be able to do the cash flow modelling to say, and use the data to say, actually, this is what you can afford to do, and you're still going to be okay.
Yeah.
And thereafter, this is how you do it. Just creates that certainty for them.
And that's really important, isn't it? Because, as you say, I suppose for the parents leaving the money, they're dead. They don't care necessarily about the tax that we'll pay. But of course, it seems such a waste of time and money to give away 40% of your estate because you didn't actually think about it and take some positive action over the course of your life when you could.
Yeah, it's a choice.
Because they do say it's a voluntary tax, don't they?
Well, apparently so, yeah. I'm not sure how voluntary that actually is.
Yeah, for sure.
But,
well, I think, as you say, it's the confidence to be able to do it.
It's giving people confidence.
Yeah, that's good. So you've already touched on, again, the issue of the vast majority of people who can't get advice, which is a big challenge, I think, for our industry per se. But then since we had that conversation, we've seen new entrants coming into the market like Vanguard, who've been making a big play on the cost, low cost advice. Is that good for the business? Is that a challenge to you guys? I mean, what's your view on the potential competition for these new entrants?
So first of all, I think it's great. I think it's great that people can get access to, I wouldn't call it advice, but they can get access to something, and that helps improve education.
Yeah.
I think we're trying to fix the wrong problem, and that's the challenge. People who need advice don't have any money.
Yeah.
Because you need to learn to save first.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, and we've spoke about it before, this entire industry is predicated around charging on a basis point of assets under management.
Yeah.
Well, if you haven't got anything, you can't charge on it.
Yeah.
So the Vanguard model just doesn't work for those people and those, certainly the next generation clients who want to buy a house. So, need a mortgage, potentially need life cover and possibly need a will.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're investing £5,000 with you.
Yeah.
Quite the opposite. They're trying to buy a sofa.
Yeah.
And various other things. So, and what that lends itself to is how, as an industry, we charge people, and it means we have to evolve, and we have to charge people appropriately on a fixed fee or on a monthly basis for that type of advice. Basis points is fine if you've got money. If not, we're just excluding so much of the population of those people that need to learn to save.
And that's back to education again, isn't it? It's that recognition that they do need to take action.
Yeah.
Because if they don't. And do you think people have lost that knowledge, that understanding, the need to invest, or do you think it's there but they just are basically distracted by day to day? How do you get that message out?
I think people are time poor. I think financial planning and money is driven around life events. So the first time someone thinks they need financial advice in any way is usually buying a house.
Yeah.
Or potentially having a child and looking at all the cash flow around maternity, paternity, etc. But that doesn't mean they can invest money at that point. So I think you've got to look at how we capture those clients at that stage to make sure we can start to educate them from that point forward. But perhaps at that point you don't need to pay for it. You can listen to Spotify forever as long as you don't click on more than 3 tracks. But until you need it, so let's let them listen to the music, but not go too far with it. And then when they need us, we're still there in the background.
Yeah. So, and I guess this is where your approach to social media, marketing, the video, using this facility is quite important, because you can then cascade those messages out, can't you? And people can then dip in as and when appropriate.
There's so much free content out there, and I firmly believe financial education should be free. We shouldn't be charging people to explain complex ideas and making them simple. And as an industry, we've done that for 20 years. Let's just get education. Let's get some freemium content out there, the videos, the educational pieces. And the more you do that, actually, the more clients you get, because they start to understand it and they'll lose that fear. So encouraging them to save is super important. But then we also have to change the way that we interact with clients. So we have a son or daughter of one of our clients who early 20s. They don't want to sit across the table from a financial planner with a load of paper. They want to do it on a Sunday night on an app whilst they're watching Love Island on the catch-up. That's how this works. So we have to find a way to interact with them, utilising the technology and the data that we've got, which means they can do it in a heartbeat.
I was going to say, back to the technology again, isn't it? And data.
Unfortunately, it does revolve around that. If we want to create something that's scalable, but also we've got regulation in there as well. And I think by utilising the technology and the data, we can mitigate a lot of the risks around that next generation and how we deliver scalable advice to them.
Well, you're doing it by design, aren't you? The technology provides the discipline, the framework, which enables that communication conduit the way into your business. And of course, the future is all about delivering digital transformation, is all about delivering advice the way the consumer wants to consume it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. People take news in different ways now. You don't buy the Times, you go online and get your Apple News or something else. So things have changed. People shop in different places now. People want to choose how they take advice. We can't any longer determine or dictate to them that you have to come to my office and you have to have a 2-hour meeting and we have to do it this way. They want to choose. So technology allows that, and that's great.
Good man. Well, look, you mentioned the regulator, the FCA. So what's going on there? There was this recent announcement, I think in July, where they have just cancelled the most up-to-date suitability review. Tell us about that.
So I think, you're looking at it, if you look at the suitability review 1, I think they found that 93% of all advice was suitable. Suitability review 2 was looking at a slightly different area of advice, retirement and decumulation. So for a slight shift. I think ultimately what it tells me is that the FCA are now more agile than they've ever been. They've looked at what's happened in the pandemic. Maybe they're looking at fees for no service. Maybe they're looking at firms that have furloughed people and, in my opinion, shouldn't have done. And maybe they're saying, actually, we need to focus our attention over here because the next big risk is actually here. We can leave that plate spinning for a little bit longer, but this one's going to drop very soon.
Yeah.
So I think it demonstrates an agility.
Okay.
And hopefully, we can use that to create a more advanced industry.
So I guess, are you saying, or are they saying, that actually we've got the suitability message across there, the fact that people are into the disclosure regime, they're doing things appropriately? Because you say 93% of the advice was deemed appropriate or suitable, but I think there was also that sort of slight little bit on the side saying, but only 50% of the firms were really operating in a fully disclosed way.
Yeah.
But is that a risk or not, do you think? Or is it something that's more manageable?
I think suitability ultimately is important, but clients need to know what they're paying for it.
Yeah.
And it comes back to this point on fee for no service. If they didn't know what they were paying for, they don't know what service to expect.
Yeah.
So I think if we're not careful, we're just harbouring a longer term problem that will come back and bite us. And I'm sure we'll talk about FSCS levies.
That was my next question.
We're building another problem for the future if we're not careful.
Yeah.
So I do think disclosure needs to be dealt with, and I would like to see much more stringent rules around clients having to have annual sign up with a professional firm, disclose the fee, disclose the service, and get them to sign up to it again.
Yeah.
Again, we see far too many instances where they've signed the terms of business 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Disclosed the fee then, and then they're relying on the provider's costs and services charges statement to disclose. Well, I'm not sure that's as transparent as it could be.
No, you're just putting barriers in the way, aren't you? You're disguising. I mean, as a consumer of financial advice, the last thing I want to do is read through pages and pages of really boring numbers. I just want somebody to tell me what the bottom line is, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then have a discussion around it. I think people need that opportunity to have a candid discussion. I don't think people are afraid to pay money or resent paying money. And again, as long as they feel as though they're getting value for the service on offer. And that's quite, as you've already said, quite comprehensive. It's not about returns necessarily, although that plays a part. That's the sort of the foundation. But more importantly, it's how it's the comfort factor, isn't it? It's that sort of confidence that things are going to be fine.
It is. We conducted a recent survey of clients looking at what's important to them when choosing a financial planner. Yeah. And on a scale of 1 to 10, fees came in at 7. Yeah. So actually, they're important, but they're not 10. Yeah. What was 10? Personal connection with their advisor.
Yeah, well, trusted advisor, isn't it?
Exactly.
And that's the key. So you mentioned the FSCS, and the FCA are currently doing a review of the FSCS. What's the story there and what's going on?
So, the FCA are now focusing on the levy and how it's passed on.
Presumably that's good news for financial advisors, is it?
Yes and no. I mean, yes, it's good that they're doing the review, but I read a lot of the press and I get so frustrated as an industry. We just whinge about it. Yeah. Because absolutely, the FSCS levy is there, but we created it. Yeah. It's not something new. It's because of past advice and past failings. Yeah. And I know that we didn't create some of those, and other firms did, and maybe better regulation at the time would have helped. So the FCA came out and said that they want firms to fail in a more orderly fashion.
Yeah, what does that mean?
I don't know. I've never fallen over in an orderly fashion. I usually go down like a sack of potatoes.
Yeah.
So looking at basically increasing capital adequacy requirements of firms to reduce the FSCS levy. Now, for me personally, I think that's got a number of implications. First of all, it could move put big barriers away in terms of small firms coming into the industry, because the cap ad limits are too high. Yeah. And these could be really good firms. Yeah. But secondly, holding more cash does not mean you fail in an orderly fashion. Because if you're going bust, you'll spend your cash. Exactly. So the only way you can do that is if the FCA ring-fence that capital and you have to give it to them as a bond. Right. They take it off you. Right. And then if something did fail in it, they could step in or allow an intervention party to step in to fail in an orderly fashion. But just holding more cash on your balance sheet, I believe is meaningless unless there is regulation around where it's held. Yeah, that makes sense. Is there going to be more focus on the FCA about how businesses are run? I mean, obviously focusing on the money, capital adequacy is one measure, but running a business is much more important, or is much broader than just the money, isn't it? I think, look, the FSCS levy ultimately is looking in the rearview mirror, because if you're there, it's already happened. Yeah, exactly. I think running a good business means you can flag these things, and it comes back to data again. Yeah. Now, I think we've had 5 resilience surveys now from the FCA in relation to COVID. Yeah. So they are collecting the data. Yeah. They know who's furloughed. They know who hasn't. They know profitability over the next 6 months, chances of how much cash is going to be depleted. Yeah. So I do believe they are collecting that data now.
Are they using it? and what are the consequences? What do you think the consequences will be?
Like anything with data, you're trying to build trends.
Yeah.
So if they'd have sent out one survey, no, I don't think they were trying to use it. I think that would just be a temperature check.
Yeah.
The fact that they've done 5 means, they're probably building a trend of businesses as to who did well initially or didn't. Are they coming out? Are they still in trouble? Are they going backwards?
Yeah.
And hopefully then you can try and spot the firms that may fail.
Yeah.
And you can intervene.
Yeah.
You can help them. Maybe remove the permissions before anything happens, or connect them to a party that can help them.
Yeah, and that's key, isn't it? So that's identifying a company before it fails orderly or disorderly.
And that is an orderly way to fail, is to help them before it gets there.
Yeah.
So I do hope that they are collating this data, and I do hope that they can use those trends in a positive way, to help the firms that there may be big firms that are struggling because of overhead, but there might just be startups that didn't quite get over the hump before COVID hit. And how do we help them? Because they need a chance, they need a leg up.
So do you see the FCA, because if they're the point of aggregation, aren't they? They're the point of data, aggregation. Do you think the FCA has got it in its mind that maybe when firms are apparently falling into difficulty, that they could act as sort of a marriage service, or just start to, perhaps introduce firms to other firms? I mean, is that on the radar, do you think, or not?
No, I don't think it is.
No.
I think that would be possibly wrong to do. But what you can do is intervene.
Yeah.
When firms are going bust, if you know what you're doing when you're running a business, there are ways to mitigate potential risk to clients.
Yeah.
Which is running out of cash, and going overnight and the lights going off.
Yeah.
How do we keep the lights on long enough so we can novate these clients somewhere else?
Yeah.
Not to the financial services compensation scheme.
Yeah.
So I think there are measures that could be taken if we knew before it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think you can. I think you can work these things out.
Yeah, so you can be more proactive and basically just challenge and put people back on the straight and narrow.
But again, it's data again. Are we looking at data in the rearview mirror? With an RMAR return, absolutely, because it's tested the last 6 months.
Yeah.
Can we now use data to look forward and see where the trends are coming?
Yeah.
See who's going to do well and who isn't? That's more important, surely.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And if you've got those trends and you can begin to extrapolate out, then that's a valuable service. So Neil, what next for Progeny?
Infinity and beyond, I think the saying is, isn't it? We're so proud of the team here. We're super focused on our academy, which I believe will create the planners and lawyers in Progeny of the next generation. Our technology is of vital importance to us, and we're very much on that journey now. Making sure we're bringing everything together, and really using that technology and data to support the business. I think thereafter, we want to drive organic growth. We are trying to be thought leaders in the marketplace, and build the brand of Progeny a little bit more. And ultimately then we will also continue with our investments, our acquisitions, but only where we can support the organic growth. We won't just keep buying for the sake of it, which I know other people are. It has to be invested, acquired, integrated to support the organic growth and deliver good outcomes to clients. So a number of things for us. I'm never driven by targets in terms of numbers of AUM and all this rubbish, because I think people who set those targets don't get there and then make a silly decision. I'm focused on building a great business, and then good things happen.
And I think that's it, isn't it? At the end of the day, clients first, making sure that you deliver the value that they recognise and appreciate, and success will come.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've told investors many times, if we're targeted on profitability, we won't do it.
Yeah.
Let's build something amazing. Profitability comes.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, it does.
It really does. You've got to give before you receive, eh?
Absolutely.
Neil, thank you very much indeed. That was great to see you again, and thank you for spending the time going through this little chat. It's been really good.
No, really appreciate it. Thank you, Roland.
Thank you.